Now, before I walk you through this, I want you to notice where your eye keeps going. The upper torso, every time. That's not an accident. It's a shading decision I make deliberately on every creature I design. And here's the logic behind it. Most of the time when we draw, we want to put detail from toe all the way up to head. That's great if you're making a finished drawing where the client needs it to be fully rendered out, which is amazing, or if you're just sketching to try and get some loose ideas out. We're going to put the shading in areas where it's most beneficial for us and for the viewer. Now, if we're doing characters, scary, otherworldly, or as human as they get, it's always good to put most of the detail in the face anyway, because this is where the character and the personality really come out. So before we get into my entire process today, so I hope you stick around and watch it, I'm going to go over my materials. It's just one pencil today, Tombow 4B, that's it. And then I'm sketching on my moleskin sketch pad. You can sketch on any paper you like. I will recommend that if you want very smooth shading or smoother shading than what has been happening for you lately, it's probably best to get smoother paper. Without further ado, let's jump into the entire process, and I really hope that you enjoy it. Let's go. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is just establish a really cool silhouette for a character. Now, when it comes to horror and things that are scary, listen, scary is subjective. What scares one person may be laughable to another. And so whenever a scary movie comes out, whether it's the new Exorcist or some kind of ghost movie or demonic possession movie, some people are going to laugh, some people are going to be genuinely creeped out, and other people will have a meh kind of reaction. So, in my humble opinion, I feel like the scariest characters tend to be the ambiguous ones that we really can't figure out what's actually going on with them. And I think that's the mystery, or I think that the mystery in that is what makes them so disturbing. So in several of my videos, I do harken back to Silent Hill, because I feel like out of all of the games and all of the scary stuff we've seen, Silent Hill tends to have the characters that are the most weird. Dark Souls is good. In you could think of Dead Space and anything dealing with like Lovecraftian or some kind of intergalactic horror entity, but it just seems when you couple in ghosts and spirits mixed with slightly twisted demeanors, it's very disturbing, and I love it. Now, when it comes to this particular creature right here, I can already tell just from my wireframing it's going to be rather stiff, and I don't want to do that. This is precisely why I'm doing the wireframing. Now, I'm not working off of previous thumbnails, but I'm rather treating this like, hey, let's see what I can do if I just make one giant thumbnail and kind of add in details and perfect this one. Well, not perfect it, but if I can refine it to something that is, a little bit more disturbing and doable. And hey, it is humanoid, but, we're going to see some aspects of otherworldliness, maybe some alien in here. Not the xenomorph, but more of something from another dimension. And I'm also going to be mentioning a lot of my influences while I do this, especially in movies and games, just because of how I grew up and what I look for when it comes to creatures. So if you're drawing along with me right now, think about all of the tropes and cliches that you normally find yourself following within your art. It happens a lot. I do it. I catch myself doing it quite often, and I have to reverse that thought process, mainly because I don't want to end up doing just blind fan art, which, hey, fan art's awesome every now and then. I totally admit, when Predator Badlands came out, I drew Deck. I didn't post it on social media, but I drew Deck, just because I haven't drawn a Predator in forever. It just felt good to draw that again. But, when it comes to inventing your own creatures, It's more about trusting your own thought process and trusting what you feel it resonates with you versus what you think somebody else is going to feel once they view your work. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. So let me explain that real quick. So when it comes to portfolio building, oh, by the way, as I'm talking to you about portfolio building and stuff, I'm just slowly but surely going to start building up this frame in the back. Okay, so hopefully you can get 2 lessons out of one, or once you listen to me, just mute me and then just watch the drawing again. Okay, but anyway, when it comes to portfolios, when we look at somebody's work, we want to see their voice in that work. And if we see that they're trying to be someone else because social media told them to, just fishing around for likes and comments and stuff, we can quickly see that person has not necessarily vision, but they have no voice. They have no taste. So we want to make sure that, hey, if this person's drawing some characters for their portfolio, is it their own creation? Is it their own take on something that does exist, which actually warrants good fan art if done correctly? Because it's something like Gavin Goulden said over and over again at GDC. He was like, if you do fan art and you put it in your portfolio, you have to remember that the companies that do those characters have been already staring at that stuff for like 4 years. Okay, so nobody wants to see the same Master Chief over and over again. Okay, so you can kind of see here that I'm starting to get some weird shapes. Another thing I want to mention, this is totally not art related. I don't know what I caught a couple days ago, but my voice hasn't been the same, so I might seem sound a little strange, but we'll see where it goes. I'm starting to see some things emerge here. Boy, this does feel like Dead Space, doesn't it? It does to me, at least. I see a pectoral muscle coming out here, an arm. This was basically intentionally an arm coming off of here. And then I'm also seeing a weird head here and a head here. Another thing that I'm noticing is there's a face emerging right here. And I'm noticing that the eyeballs here are really freaky looking, mainly because they're spread out. I have an opportunity to put some sharp teeth in there, and I think I will, but I do not want to commit to that yet. So if you're drawing along with me and you're seeing these shapes emerge with whatever creature that you're drawing, don't commit to details yet. The key to details, and I just released a short last week or this week about details and the underlying forms and skin that you need to establish before you put the details on. Please know that form that those wrinkles and the scales and fur and everything will be sitting on are more important than the actual details. All right, so for example, if I do a crooked mouth right here and the lips weird, and then I start showing sharp teeth in here, the curvature of that mouth wouldn't even happen like that had I not drawn that face yet and determined that it was a spread apart, I guess, maxilla, you want to call it that, like the front part of the face. I couldn't have come up with that had I not drawn that face. So, and plus it's disturbing. Remember what I said about disturbing? So I'm just going to write that down so you guys can always see this. Disturbing. That is a terrible U. Sorry about that. So disturbing. You want to check mark that off just to make sure that, hey, am I drawing something that is cliche and that everybody sees? If so, how can I change it to make it my own? Now, up here, I start to see another mouth slit. That was not intentional. All I did was just continue the shapes going across because I did it here and then here too. So I actually like that face. However, in several lessons that I have given recently over the past month, so please check my long forms just in this past month, about asymmetry and about unpredictability. We don't want that mouth to do the exact same thing as that mouth. So instead, maybe we can open it up to a really weird shape. Now, no matter how the shape looks right now, don't commit to it yet. It's just a slight mountaintop shape, and I don't know where the bottom is. There may be teeth, there may be exposed gums. We're going to leave it there for now. That was just an idea that I had, so we'll see where that goes. All right, now it kind of looks like this creature's in pain, doesn't it? Maybe we'll draw some stretched skin across there. And this is how I build up my scary creatures, especially. I tend to have to put a little bit more thought into my scary creatures versus the more typical mammalian ones or even the insect ones. Because of all of the rules that we would need to follow for anatomy when it comes to drawing, typical animal-like shapes that we're used to seeing. Elephants, hoofed animals, cat, dogs, things of that nature. When it comes to scary stuff, like I said, it's subjective. You have to be able to convey fear and weirdness by breaking some rules. Okay, when I say breaking some rules, I mean, have you ever seen The Thing? Those of you watching right now, if you're a horror movie fan, of course you've seen The Thing. If not, if you're slightly younger, I would definitely advise you to go watch The Thing. Tons of different alien DNA mixed up into one creature. And no one creature in the Thing series is ever the same, which is why it's beautiful. But, we're making huge mounds here of pus and venom and just grossness. So we have to be able to invent these lumps on the fly and still have them look good. Whenever I make eyeballs for scary creatures, if I do spread them apart, or if I keep them close together, I always darken the outer edges of the eyeballs, and then I put a little bit of shading underneath the eye to make it seem like a sunken-in eye socket. You don't always have to do that, no. But it's good to at least darken the eyes because it adds a sense of mystery and a little ghostliness, like a little supernatural feeling. Okay, so now we have a pretty good silhouette on the side right here. Even though the markings are a little loose, this area I'm pretty happy with. Also, when it comes to these teeth, I don't want to be predictable even with that mouth. I may give it a hair lip, show some sharpness in there, even some slight dark dots mixed with the regular gray that's around it. It'll give the illusion that there are teeth poking up and, it's just a messed up mouth. Now this is obviously the chin right here, so I can put in some shading directly under it. The detail that's happening right here is just being placed on top of the light forms that I'm actually giving the creature. All right, now, right here, I'm going to be the rib cage. Okay, you can clearly see the diaphragm and you can clearly see the belly. I'm pretty happy with the mouth over here too. Now, when it comes to the eyeballs, I got another trick for you guys. The closer that you put the eyeballs to the mouth slits, the creepier it is. The farther away you move it from it, the more predictable it is. But if you move it really close there, it screams that isn't right. And it's okay when it comes to, weird, exotic, alien, demonic entities, because anything goes. Who knows what's out there, right? Now it seems like this creature obviously has two heads, but the one in charge is probably this one over here. I assume so because it's looking directly at us. This one just seems like brain dead Charlie. I don't know what's happening over there. He's probably just, along for the ride to see if Charlie bites something, I guess I have to also. Or just kind of there for moral support. Who knows? All right, there we go. Now, all the dark lines that I'm putting in, I don't know what's in that area per se, but I'm just following the scribbles that I had originally put down there. and I'm pretty happy with those shapes. So I'm just committing to it right now without second guessing it, which is actually a good tactic for all of you to follow. If you find yourself obsessing a little too much about, the lines that you're putting down, and worrying too much about being perfect, just commit to something and then do it. Okay, there we go. Got a little good bicep anatomy going on there. I don't know what's going to happen with that chest, the whole pectoral muscle. We'll see. There's a lot of sores and everything on this creature, and a lot of skin that needs to stretch. So the other great thing about adding in these spheres and all the rough shapes, we know where the skin is going to stretch to and on top of. So that's really nice. All right, comment below if you're having a lot of fun. I am having an absolute blast. I love drawing this stuff. Scary stuff has always been my go-to. There we go. But the same principles apply in character design for scary stuff as they do for normal human figure drawing. Okay, it's gestural sketching, making sure the form is in there before the details, and making sure that there's energy and flow in the movements so that you're not drawing stiff characters. And that goes even with normal creatures too, quadrupeds, bipeds, it doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that there's movement everywhere. It took me a long time to realize that I was drawing too stiff of characters. All right, there we go. So let's move that up a little bit here. You see that? Okay, now we're cooking. The funny thing is, now that I've been drawing on this for a while, this character right here reminds me of the Hag in the new Resident Evil. I don't know who invented that creature, but whoever did, I freaking love you. It's great. So I think I'm going to use that as some of my reference. And just going to have this really disgusting, I guess, hag-like face with scraggly hair coming off. I think that would look really cool. So when we do stuff like this, we have hair coming off, make sure that the hair just doesn't lay down perfectly straight. Have a little bit of motion into it. Anytime that I would draw hair in the past, I would always try to have wind hit it, or how if you have long hair and you're listening to this, you move your head. So when you move your head, wind or no wind, the hair kind of follows suit. So just make sure that there's some kind of motion in this and the hair kind of moves along with you. There we go. I don't make it look goofy, but I think I'm making it look goofy. This is so funny. See, the thing is, I can't erase that now. But the hair lip and the crazy mouth right here with the tooth roots and things coming up like that, yeah, I think that'll work. Maybe a human nose? I'm not sure. But one thing, as promised, I'm going to teach you guys how to make all of this look 3D. But I had to establish these faces first. Okay, comment below if one of these characters, or if this whole thing, would fit in a horror game. What kind of horror game should this go into? Horrors and babysitting? I guess so. That'd be kind of funny. Whenever I have this amount of detail, I like to put in a coating of shading across everything. Very light though, very light. Mainly because I like the lightness of the paper itself, the cream color, and I'm going to keep that. I just like to brush across those markings just to kind of give me a peace of mind to know that I'm starting to add value. There's the center right here. So I guess the breastplate's kind of hidden amongst all of the fat cells and the strange skin that's peeled back. Oh man, we can get so detailed in this, and I think we will, because this is going to be a fun one, everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, this head over here on our left has a lot of stuff wrong with it. Just weird bulbous shapes. Not really sure what's going on. And I think that's what makes it so disturbing. I do know that the core shadow is going to be running on our left over here. So I definitely want to convey that. This Tombow pencil that I'm using definitely has a different way of spreading the shading across the page. It's not like my Faber-Castells. So I'm still learning too with all these different brands and things that I haven't used in the past much. I'm trying to expand and broaden my horizons here. There we go. Gotta have some protruding sharp teeth. Also, the other thing that makes creatures pretty creepy is the mouth slit. If you extend the mouth slit past, the length of the cheek and the ears and everything, it just offers a really weird, not so natural look to the bone structure. Because remember, we're thinking about the structure that these details are sitting on. So this would be the equivalent of a lip. Okay, so this next step, kind of zoomed out here a little bit. We're going to add in some large random shapes, and then whatever shapes happen, that's going to be the shape of the body. Because let's face it, this thing is humanoid, and it's pretty gross. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of shapes together down here where the hand could be. Over here, the right hand, maybe not even full fingers. Just something long and weird. And then I'm thinking that the left leg doesn't have to be bent back like it's going to be bipedal, but maybe the leg can be twisted out like this, and the creature can be standing knock-kneed. Who knows? Let's see what happens here. I think this is when it's going to get a lot of fun, because the left leg kind of looks like there's a lot of vines happening, so maybe there's some weird biomechanical coils happening. Like I said, I'm using the hag from Resident Evil 9 as a reference. I think it's a really creepy creature. So maybe like this really big sagging belly. Probably not going to be clothed, but at the same time, the skin folds and all of the other nastiness happening will be covering up, anything that would need to be covered. Oh yeah, there we go. Kind of like a bent. A prosthetic leg would be kind of neat. There we go. So maybe get in a little strange shape for the foot. And then over here, another shape for the foot here. Just really gross toes. We got the big toe here spread apart. Oh yeah, man. Kind of a lot of swelling going on in the calf. Yeah, she's having fun, isn't she? So I think we're gonna name these two. Okay, this is Flo over here. We'll just call her Ruby Gonads over there. So Flo and Ruby Gonads. I don't know how they met, but they got fused together. So we'll see where this goes. They're best friends. Best friends even in the darkest times. And now they get to haunt people and hunt them down in a video game. So darkness, when I shade them, or when I shade darkness from a line into the figure, it can add a lot of dramatic effect, mainly because of the lighting and such. So you don't know what this character is walking towards, in, by, anything along those lines. Could be an overhead compartment, it could be trees. You just want to add in some drama here. Okay, so now we're just going to indicate where some oblique muscles could exist. I'm going to come over here and add some more hair to the side right here, but it's going to be matted. So they're going to be clumped, stuck together, old. Who knows, this entity could have been haunting whatever it's been haunting for centuries, for a millennia. But they've been together and they've been doing this. They may have known each other in some previous life. Okay, so now that we have this figure pretty much sketched out roughly, the light source has been hinted at but not really established. So we're going to go from our upper right I'm just going to put a light little arrow in just to kind of give myself a peace of mind as to where the light is coming from. Now we can see some highlights on top of the chin, some of the cheek, the nose, and then over here on this face, over to its left eyebrow and such. But there's no real cast shadow. So before I even do that, before I do something super harsh like a spotlight, I want to sketch in very lightly where the shadow eventually will be going. So see how I'm sketching over top of my details? That's okay, because that's all going to be in shadow anyway. The darkness right there, see how dark that is where the fat wrinkles and the skin and everything are meeting? Well, in between there, there's not a lot of light happening. But since we have a harsher light coming from the highlight in our upper right, I think I'm just going to darken that entire area and kind of bring that out. I really like the dramatic effect there. Plus, it helps bring the face out too. So that means that if the light's coming at this angle, yeah, you could essentially start sketching in some projected lines of where you think the light source is going to go. But since it's in this concentrated area, you can kind of guess or guesstimate where you want that to go. So I'm going to put the cast shadow coming down the body this way. I'm not worried about what the shadow is actually on top of. Right, frankly, I don't even care, because the details under there, they'll show up if they need to. The shadow is what's showing up. Now I need to round off some of these shadows because, remember, it's a cast shadow, so they have to follow the contour of whatever the body's doing. If there's a rounded part right here, which there was, then the shadow has to round on top of that. So you don't want to just go straight down. You want to round it off. It gets sucked back in, and then it gets rounded off again. You have to honor that, so make sure you don't forget it. Next, same thing happens over here. But since the light is farther over to our right, that means that if it's coming this way, most of the shadow is going to be projected to our left. So this whole side of the neck is probably going to be dark, as is this entire side of the face. There's going to be a big core shadow over there. Now, see this value that I'm putting in right here? It's the same from start to finish over here on the left. However, in the middle of that, or close to the middle, I'm going to get the darkest. That's going to be an indication of a core shadow in there. And I'm using small little ovals to kind of round that off. Now it's darker over here just because I want to try to convey some atmosphere over here. The area or the environment, it's very mysterious. Could be walking through a factory, a forest, some kind of cave. And I'm just going to be fading off some shading from the figure into the hair area and into the background, just to show some atmosphere. See here at the top of the head, we don't really know where her head starts up here, except for these shadows. That's fine, because I want to keep that mystery going. If there's any soft spot, which is better known as sfumato, then I'm just going to fade some of those areas off into the background and just call it done. I don't even need to worry about it. That eye that I had over here, you can clearly still see it right there. I got a little darker. I'm not going to do anything else to the side of that face. You can still see the light of the cheek right there. See that slight lightness inside there? That's what you want. I'm not going to do anything else. Instead, I'm just going to make sure that these body parts, such as this big chest area, casting a shadow on anything that may be down here. The arm itself isn't going to get much shadow, mainly because I don't want the details to be on that arm any more than I have to. Remember how I faded off all of the shading in here, and it's pretty light, just gestural movements, gestural strokes. That's what I want here. And now I can concentrate on really bringing these forward. Those tiny little moves here and there that separate the skin from the bone and the wrinkles. There we go. Wow, these twins are pretty disturbing. And we have our little demon baby child coming out of here. Like I said, folks, if you're trying to draw scary stuff, the things that I like to do to make them disturbing is spreading apart the distance between the eyes. That always seems to do it. And making the eyes tinier. Yes, there are plenty of characters in games and cartoons and movies where the eyes are very large and they're scary. You can definitely pull that off, especially if the eyes have no pupils, that like there's no emotion in there, and they're black and merciless, and they have like little reflection. But same thing can be going to the opposite extreme, making them tiny. We as humans, we tend to look to see what is familiar. Well, if we're looking at a face and it's slightly off a little bit, something's not right. It's kind of like the movie Splice. Those of you seen it with Adrian Brody, you know what I'm talking about with that weird hybrid lady that was in there. Good movie. I think it was underrated. A little weird. It was a good movie. And see, I can keep going over this and just adding in cool little crevices and details and whatnot. But I think I got the point across. You want to leave a lot up to the imagination. So I want to thank everybody for watching this tutorial. Hopefully you found it beneficial. I have some important things to check in the links too in the description. We have a Creature Design Workshop Discord, which is open to the public. It's free to join that. I run a mentorship through that, so if you want to sign up for that, my email is bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. And I also run a Patreon. If you want to jump a little deeper into creature anatomy and the different references, materials, and everything that I use on a daily basis for games and film, you might want to consider joining that too. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here. You guys are awesome. And let me know what you're inventing, and let me know what you're struggling with. Till next time, peace.